Violets and Father and Child. I've broken my site up into 4 sections. The homepage is a breakdown of the assessment. The next 2 pages, Love and Death, explore these themes in Harwood's poetry. Finally, the analysis page features a YouTube video of myself giving an in-depth analysis of these pages, poems, and visual representations on each. The homepage begins with the logo of a feather, which is a literal representation of the owl in Father and Child Barn Owl. A feather is symbolic of truth and ascension. Truth in Father and Child Barn Owl, the child learns that death is not always clean and final, but slow and painful like the owls in which she caused. Where in Nightfall, she learns that death in some cases can be peaceful and is comforted by this when faced with losing her father. Ascension. In Father and Child, the child evolves from the youth who is childish and needs to be taken care of in Barn Owl to the one who is taking care of her father because of his dependence, ancient innocence, in Nightfall. The colour scheme throughout the site also has significance to the poems and the themes of love and death. Pastel pink represents sweetness of youth, compassion, nurturing, and love. Sweetness of youth, in the violets, the child is confused about what time of day it is, and when pointed out it is late afternoon and not in fact morning, she asks, "Where is morning gone?" giving off a sense of innocence to her character. Compassion and nurturing, the mother is lovingly trying to console her child with the beautiful violets in the garden, and not even the father coming home could comfort her. I would not hold their sweetness, or be comforted even when my father, whistling, came home from work. It wasn't until she had a glass of warm milk and was reading a story that she was tranquil. The love of her parents in the violets, with tenderness stroking my mother's gold brown hair, and the love she has for her father in Father and Child Nightfall, and how he will be missed once he is passed. White represents innocence, the children in both poems being of an innocent nature. The marble in this image is symbolic of immortality. In the Violets and Father and Child, we're not talking about immortality of a person, but immortality of their memories and experiences, and how once they have passed, their memories and experiences will live on with them and their loved ones forever. The succulent plant in this image represents a timeless love between parents and child in the Violets and Father and Child. In this image, the violets are a literal representation of the flowers in the poem The Violets. The blackbirds in the shape of a love heart. Blackbirds are a literal representation from the violets. Close by his nest, our blackbird frets. The love heart represents love. In the violets, the love between the child and her parents, and in Nightfall, the love between her father and the child. A person walking into a light source. This is symbolic of death, or walking into the light. On this page, I will be analysing these visual representations of the theme love in Gwen Harwood's poems. 2 people walking on a path is a literal representation from Father and Child Nightfall. The child and the father walking before the father's time on earth is up. This walk perhaps mightn't have been a physical trek, but a psychological walk of the father's life and his memories and experiences. The image of a candle holder in the shape of a house. The candle symbolises a light in the darkness of life, or warmth. In the violets, inside the child's home is where she feels warmth and the love of her parents, and after a day of disappointment and sadness, she is happy, wants to be inside of that house with her parents and their love. A shell in the ocean. Because of its hard casing, the shell is a protective image, protecting life, sheltering pearls. It also symbolises the protective quality love sometimes takes. In the Violets and Father and Child, the parents are the shells, and the children are the pearls the shell is protecting. The image of a young person holding an older person's hand. This is a literal representation from Father and Child Nightfall. Link your dry hand in mine, my stick-thin comforter. Imagery of how the father's hand would look, skinny, dry, and wrinkled. On this page, I will be exploring the meanings of these visual representations of the theme death in Gwen Harwood's poems I have chosen. A graveyard or cemetery is symbolic of the death and the inevitability of where our lives will end. Father and Child Barn Owl, the child learns about death in its merciless way. In Father and Child Nightfall, the father is dying and both child and father are faced with accepting the inevitable. The book represents knowledge, memories, and experiences. In the Violets, the memories are of her childhood. In Father and Child, the father is taking a walk with his daughter before he dies, sharing his life experiences, memories, and knowledge with her, like flicking through the pages of his life. You keep a child's delight forever in birds, flowers, shivery grass. I name them as we pass. This is a quote from Father and Child Nightfall. This means she is able to name things as they pass on their walk. And if this indeed wasn't a physical trek, then she may not be naming physical attributes, but the knowledge the father has passed on to his daughter. Candles are symbolic of life. If your candle is big, then you are young and very much alive. Or if your candle is very small, you are close to death. The flame on a candle also represents life. In the violets, the child's candle would be at its tallest, and the flame at its brightest. In Father and Child Barn Owl, the owl's candle would not be completely burnt out, but the flame blown out abruptly, as the child has abruptly ended the owl's life. In Father and Child Nightfall, the father's candle would be almost completely burnt out, and his tiny flame flickering. A sunset is symbolic of the approach of death. In the violets, a simile is used, melting west striped like ice cream. This creates imagery of the sunset. This represents death and the dying of the day. In conclusion, my visual representation of a website conveys my understanding and the themes of love and death in Gwen Harwood's poems The Violets and Father and Child through images, videos, and colour.